Good afternoon and welcome to this special live Google Hangout brought to you by the Pitch 2014 in association with AVG. And this afternoon I'm delighted to say we're joined live from London by our 2013 winner, Arthur Kay, founder of Biobean. Hello, Arthur.
Hi there, thanks for having me on, Dan.
No problem at all. So what we're going to do this afternoon is talk to Arthur about his business and his ideas and how he came up with the idea, but also have a big focus on the pitch, as last year Arthur was lucky enough to be the overall champion of the competition. So as applications are currently open for this year, all of you who are looking to apply this year are going to get some fascinating insight on what it takes to be a winner. So first of all, before we get onto the pitch, Arthur, would you like to just sort of talk about what your big idea was for Biobean and how you turned that idea into a business?
Absolutely. I mean, so as Dan's kindly introduced me, my name's Arthur Kay and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Biobean. Biobean's a green energy company that turns waste coffee grounds into two biofuel products, namely biodiesel and biomass pellets. And essentially it was this idea which may sound a bit left field at first, but essentially the UK produces about 500,000 tonnes of waste coffee grounds each year, and that's a huge cost to the industry, and costing about £50 million each year in waste disposal costs. And so what we're providing is not only a solution for the waste coffee industry, but also a clean, green source of energy for then powering both buildings and transport systems in our capital.
Fantastic. So once you had that idea, you had that. How did you come up with that idea, and how did you then turn it into a business?
So I came up with the idea whilst studying. I was a student in London at University College London. I bizarrely was studying architecture, which perhaps isn't the most obvious route into establishing a biofuels company. And I was looking at how a building could produce the waste a building produces. In this case, I was designing a coffee shop and coffee roasting facility, but how that waste could in turn be used to power that building. And from that started drilling down into the technologies behind it. The waste happened to be waste coffee grounds, and started drilling down into technology, from which we've now licensed a handful of patents and proved that it's not only viable commercially, it's also viable environmentally. And by 2020 we look to save about 1 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent in emissions.
Brilliant. So what were you're still quite new, but what were your early business challenges, and how have you tried to overcome them?
Some of the early business challenges included my youth. So I'm 23 years old, and kind of building a team, getting people to take you seriously, and establishing a company that's not just a new idea, but also something that's kind of industrializing essentially a very large-scale waste and manufacturing business. By year 3, you're looking to process about 50,000 tonnes of waste per year, raising huge amounts of capital alongside that, so over £1 million to date. And again, on that side of things, working with some very, very large companies, and essentially selling into corporate institutions, and how to go about that both effectively and also make it so it's not just a CSR play for them, but also something that's cost efficient. I started off by saying it costs the industry about £50 million, and that's what we've really worked on, is trying to make this not just viable environmentally, but also commercially for these large-scale waste coffee producers.
So how has it gone so far with the people that you've talked to? Are they starting to take you a bit more seriously now?
Oh, well, we hope so. We've formed partnerships with some of the biggest coffee companies, not just in the UK, but globally. These companies are absolutely mammoth, and both at the instant coffee end, but also for the retail production of coffee, because that's one of the real coups, was discovery that instant coffee actually produces a huge amount of waste further up the supply chain, so it's not just about the retail outlets, and kind of looking at that as a solution as well.
Brilliant. So moving on to the pitch, because that's sort of one of the big things we're talking about today. So last year, if you can think back to around about this time last year, why did you decide to enter the competition?
I mean, it was mainly because of the reputation that the pitch has as one of the leading business for competition for small businesses in the UK, and it holds a kind of position of prestige amongst all others. And not only there's that side of things, but also the kind of plethora awards that come with that in terms of different support and packages that you get along with the awards. So it was both a kind of motivation to take the company forward, but also to receive some so the stamp of credibility and support for what we had already done, and then also the helpers and taking it on beyond there.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. So if you talk us, you applied, you got through. We put you through last year. We had, as you're sure you remember, 50 entrepreneurs from around the UK who travelled down to Bristol, where I am at the moment, and you pitched over the day, and then you luckily got through to the final the same day. It was a very long day, and then you pitched again and you won. So do you want to just talk us through that experience of that quite long day and nerve-wracking experience that it must have been?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's as you say, it's a very nerve-wracking experience, but also really, really good fun. I mean, I met a whole bunch of people who, for the first time down there, and some of whom I'm still very close friends with, and who are sharing business experience, and also the intensity is something that learned a lot from as well. And pitching 2 or 3 times in one day is not necessarily unusual, especially when looking not just to for raising capital, but also when you're selling a product or service to other companies or other people. That is something that you constantly have to be aware of and up for, basically. And so that kind of readiness and the pitch work that after your initial presentation you then go through to a final, from which, as Dan says, I was lucky enough to be selected the winner, but there are kind of a whole host of seriously incredible companies there, and to be kind of part of that and work alongside them was a real honour. So
you got, as we said, we got through to the final, and our judges picked you as a winner. Why do you think you won? What do you think they saw in you?
I'm not sure exactly. Hopefully that although it was the kind of the shell of an idea even at that stage, hopefully they saw that this was something that was viable and could be scaled, and it was through the support from the pitch that has kind of been able to us to raise the capital we've raised, to form some of the partnerships and contracts that we have managed to form, and also to kind of essentially go into production in our facility, basically. So it's been a real quite a journey since then, basically.
I was going to move on to that. You won a whole host of sort of prizes, both sort of people in terms of Karen Darby, the mentor you won, and physical stuff. Well, she is a physical person, but products and services. Do you want to talk us through the benefits that winning the competition brought to you in your business?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of it, as I said, was the kind of prestige and validation that came along with that. But also, I mean, you mentioned Karen Darby. She's been amazingly helpful for our business. But she's mentoring us on a very, very regular basis, and has given us a huge amount of support, and also a number of introductions as well. Also, some of the other judges from last year have also been very useful, both with introductions and mentoring, and that wasn't even part of the package. They simply did that because they are helpful and wanted to be involved beyond that. I mean, in terms of some of the other pieces of advice, I mean, amongst some of the sponsors of the pitch, there are some seriously prestigious institutions, and we've kind of throughout, whether it was an iPad, which we won last year as well, which was seriously useful, or also some of the kind of marketing support and accounting support as well, which was very, very valuable, especially at the stage we were at.
Fantastic. So, as I said, there's lots of people at the moment who are in the place where you were this time last year, who are they're applying for the pitch, hoping to get to where you got to, October last year. So what advice would you give to people considering entering the competition this year?
No, I'd say the main thing is to think very, very carefully and very clearly about what your USP is, basically, about very clearly articulating what your product is or what your service is and why it's useful, not just of interest, but why it's critical. And that's what we found has been a big driver in where we've managed to get to, whether it's through winning the pitch or not. In that, it's a very clearly articulated need or concern, as opposed to something that would be a nice add-on. And I think a lot of early stage companies at the moment are solutions to very, very minor or not even necessarily problems, are just nice add-ons to life, as opposed to addressing significant or clearly articulated needs, and that's what I think is what was certainly picked up by the judges last year, and also I think will be increasingly picked up in whether it's the pitch or any other small business competitions, and also when you're going through beyond that, raising capital from investors, etc. They're looking for clearly defined needs and how it can fulfill that, not just tomorrow but over a period of time.
Mm. If you're watching this, you'd like to ask Arthur a question, feel free to post it on the G+ page or Google+ page, or you can post it on YouTube. The question I've got next is sort of related to a question that somebody's emailed me, and it's to do with the actual point you were pitching, the actual being on stage, and how, what advice would you give specifically to contestants that are live on that stage? And this person has asked, how do you deal with the nerves when it comes to pitching in front of a live audience?
I mean, that's a very, very good question, and frankly, I dealt with or deal with the nerves through not really thinking about it very much. I'm not very good at public speaking in general, but what I find is a very useful trick. Basically, at the top of my piece of paper, I scribble every time, speak slowly, keep calm. And that's basically the only thing you need to think about, is that if people can't hear you or don't understand what you're saying, then you might as well not be there, because it's all about clearly articulating and going through a logical process and taking your audience on a journey with you, as opposed to saying lots of, I don't know, whether it's jargon or things that only you know, or making assumptions and leaps of faith. So it's kind of walking up a flight of stairs, and every step needs to be there in that journey, because if you miss a step, that's going to be a jar in that story, and it needs to be necessary for your audience to follow you along that step, along that path, basically. And so speaking the same as if you were doing any public speaking very slowly, speaking clearly, and making sure that your audience is with you throughout.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I remember our 2011 winner, who was Ross Dickinson, the founder of Kibosh, which is a plumbing device that deals with burst water pipes, who won in 2011. Yep. He told me when he pitched in the semi-final, he felt that his lip was growing and it was getting bigger and bigger as he pitched, which is weird. But by the time he got to the final, he'd practiced 300, 400 times. He, luckily, unlike you, Arthur, had 3 months between the semi-final and the final, so his lip was fine by then. But I think it's quite interesting the sort of experiences people have in that in live environment. I've got another question. Karen Darby has worked with us on the pitch since 2009, and Lara Morgan is another judge who's back this year. And obviously, we're very lucky to have Judith Bissley from AVG as well, and an ICAW representative join us again. But particularly Karen, as a very successful entrepreneur, without giving away her secrets, how has she sort of benefited your business? What has she done as a mentor to generally keep you going and give you advice?
No, absolutely. I mean, Karen has a phenomenal mentoring style. I mean, she's very, very calm and makes sure that everything's in both parties' interest. And so, I mean, she's kind of mentored us both on a personal level, both myself and my business partner, which again is going above and beyond on a personal level in terms of what's in it for us and why we're looking to start this business, but also for the business itself and how to drive that forward. She understands entirely she hasn't done anything in this space before in terms of green energy or biofuels. However, her market savvy and knowledge of how to set up a business and how to sell into institutions or to form kind of commercial scale partnerships has been completely invaluable for us, and essentially helped us kind of get to where we've got to today, basically. She's also her kind of crowdfunding platform. She's offered to put us on there as well, which was a fantastic opportunity as well. And that's now doing seriously well. But also, I suppose on both those aspects, she's been really, really useful for both us personally and also for the business, as I say.
I think mentoring is such a big thing, isn't it? Especially when you're in your early days, to have somebody with that experience, even if not in your sector, just to look from the outside in, I guess.
Exactly.
So just sort of generally, based on your experience in the pitch and sorry, but I keep moving this mic; it's causing me issues. So just based on your experience in the pitch and just your business experience, if you had to summarise your 3 top tips of business success, what would they be?
I don't quite know if I can be qualified or the business can be qualified even vaguely a success yet. But Let me have a think about that. I would say I would go back to my earlier point in terms of making sure your the problem you're addressing is a problem, and that sounds silly in some senses, but make sure you're actually fulfilling either a problem or a need that is not just here today, but is actually, you know, expected to last and be an actual you're solving something, and make that the kind of the key foundation of it, because there are a lot of businesses springing up at the moment which are very exciting in some ways, but there are only so many widgets to find you know, this in, you know, a very specific area of London as there can be, and so you need to make sure that you're addressing that need. In terms of the other two, I would say building a really phenomenal team, and that's what we've looked to do over the past years. It's grown from just myself and my business partner and one team member to now we're 12 people, and that's been one of them. And lots of those are kind of leading chemical and biochemical engineers and kind of very, very clever graduates, and also some top financiers as well. And so that's been a key aspect of it as well. And then thirdly, also not to necessarily grow too fast. There's obviously in some markets that's essential, but to make sure that there's don't overexpand, and that you back up each stage of your journey with kind of a good business practice, basically. Yeah.
Fantastic. That was very good. See, once you thought about it, it's some really good tips. So thank you very much, Arthur. Well, that brings us to the end of this short but sweet Google Hangout. So Arthur, thank you very much for joining us. If you're interested in repeating Arthur's success, then you can apply for the Pitch 2014 until July the 13th at thepitchuk.com. That's thepitchuk.com. And this Hangout, as soon as we finish, will be available to replay immediately. So once again, Arthur, thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you the very best success for the business in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Goodbye. Speak soon.